So here in this video we will discuss 20 very important things that you might have missed in the recently released Thor Love and Thunder teaser. Firstly, we start by seeing a flashback of Thor running through the woods of Asgard, first as a child, reflecting on his thoughts about being carefree and having no responsibilities, then quickly shifts into his teenage self with the classic Jack Kirby costume from Thor Comics issue number 1. We then see him in his adult stage of life adorning the Infinity Saga costume, and lastly walking by the flames in his Ravager costume that he wears while fighting alongside the Guardians of the Galaxy. So this scene quickly shifts into him finding solitude in a hillside under a tree on a planet with maybe 2 or 3 suns. He plants the hand of Stormbreaker on the soil under that tree where he meditates, being kind of ironic since he would battle again later on. This scene is in connection with the latter one where we see him alongside the Guardians of the Galaxy, and instead of charging into battle, he goes the opposite direction, kind of tired of all the fights. I'm probably guessing that he would fly somewhere and meditate and only join again the battle later on, after knowing that doing nothing will not help anyone, dressed in 80s retro clothing, and one of Peter Quill's jackets with the sleeves ripped off. So then we see Thor shedding his weight. I'm kinda thinking this would be the opening parts of the movie, as the prior scenes are him in his fit form, after all those curves have left that body. During that Batman robe exercise, we can see him wearing a cap with the words Strongest Avenger written on it, which shows his nostalgia on not being a part of the Avengers anymore, since his friends have died or have retired. What is surprising is that we can see him using the chains of a dead King Kong. Just kidding, that's not Kong, but I'm betting that's one of Marvel's dead ape gods, either Gekre or Hanuman. This is the first dead god to be seen in the teaser, signifying Gorr, the god butcher, has already started his killing spree. So if we look closely while fighting with the Guardians of the Galaxy, we can see Peter Quill, Drax, Groot, Rocket, Nebula and Kraglin in that team, but Gamora is missing. So I'm pretty sure after Endgame, this new version of Gamora from 2014 still haven't met Peter Quill or fallen for him and bonded with the other members. So she's still finding her way around things and won't be joining the Guardians until Volume 3. We see them dropping off Thor and Korg in Sakaar, since after the revolution during Ragnarok, the Grandmaster would have been overthrown, and these two bros would like to see what's happening there. After all, Thor has no plans whatsoever as of that time. So on one of his battles or during one of his travels, he meets up with pirates and kind of kisses one, but then in the background there is a dead Kraken. Whether it's just a creature being fished out for food or the Kraken was one of the gods being killed by Gorr the Butcher is still unknown. Hopefully it's the latter reason, and I'm thinking this is where Thor would get a boat for his later travels to Earth and Olympus, using the goats or the Bifrost from Stormbreaker. So in the next scene, in an amazing sight, we see the mystical 2 goats of Thor, who usually pulls his chariots into battle, well, in midst. They are Tooth Gnasher and Tooth Grinder, now pulling a flying longboat with Thor, Korg and Valkyrie on it. The boat does have a neon sign on it. When you zoom, you will see the upper part of the Cocktails and Dreams sign written on it, the same one from the Tom Cruise movie Cocktail. I'm pretty sure that Thor will later use Stormbreaker, at least the Bifrost power of Stormbreaker, to power the ship and let it travel across the universe. In that same scene, we can see Thor in a new costume / armor, and that is reminiscent of the Rune King Thor's battle gear with an 80s retro vibe with it. We then jump into another scene. We see an amazing sight of Olympus, which looks to be kind of floating in midair. Olympus, like Asgard, seems to be a megastructure in space and time, home to a race of near immortal beings being regarded as gods by humans. So these are the Greek gods. So whether it was Thor or Gorr, the god butcher, who was arriving there is still unknown. One thing we are curious about is the kind of cosmic magic that is present in Olympus and used by Zeus, which would bring up the question about the relations between them with the Eternals, if Zeus and the other gods are really just Eternals, or whether they are taught by them to harness the same type of energy. So after the Greek gods, we now come to a scene of a gigantic monster creature who is seemingly dead. That giant isn't a kaiju or a feral creature, it's one of the gods that is killed by Gorr. That giant is called Falagar the Behemoth. He was a friend of Thor, or at least an acquaintance, and was the champion god of the Tournament of Immortals, So being such a strong entity, seeing him dead would have instilled caution and fear onto the mind of Thor. It would be here that Thor would start to take things more seriously regarding Gorr the God Butcher and his killing spree across the universe. Okay, so now let's take a quick look at the new Asgard, which has now become a tourist attraction site. And Valkyrie is now the queen or king of New Asgard, of the Asgardians. She is sitting there in a meeting with representatives of many countries like the United States, China, maybe Wakanda, discussing renewable energy and possibly how the Asgardians would now contribute to the planet, to planet Earth in terms of technology and other sciences. Meek, remember that alien with Korg? That alien insect is now working under her, and she seems to be bored as hell being the leader of the Asgardians, which would probably lead her to join Thor later in the storyline in an adventure to fight against the Gorr the God Butcher. The teaser has many revealing scenes, but they all seem to be jumbled up and not in a chronological order. The scene where Peter Quill states that if you ever feel lost, just look at the eyes of the people you love, would have been with the earlier scenes like when they left Thor and Korg in Sakaar. So this scene also shows that Peter Quill has now matured more into the role of a leader of the Guardians, and Thor has kind of developed kind of a kinship with him, or at least on the side of Thor, as he tries to look into Star-Lord's eyes after hearing those words. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is the scene where the Guardians say farewell to Thor and Korg in Sakaar. Now lastly, we see a reforged Mjolnir being wielded by Jane as the mighty Thor. This has been teased quite a lot and rumored, and now it's a reality. Now those broken pieces of Mjolnir in New Asgard, which were left there during Hela's release from Niflheim, are still there even though they were shattered into many pieces. The enchantment is still intact and no one would be able to lift them to another place. So I'm pretty sure Jane would be arriving in New Asgard somewhere in the storyline of the movie, and somehow the ruins of Mjolnir would reform into the hammer and choose Jane as the worthy bearer, thus transforming her into the mighty Thor and granting her the powers of Thor. This also means that Thor would have transcended his previous role as the fighter Thor and would now become the Rune King Thor, a more powerful version. So what are we still missing here? Oh, the reveal of Gorr the God Butcher. Well, we already know that Christian Bale is going to be the alien god killer. We are still curious about how this MCU iteration is going to look like. So even though we haven't seen Gorr in this trailer, his actions are pretty evident, and when he comes out, can you guess what will be along with him? Coming out along with him? A symbiote, not just any regular one, but it's gonna be the debut of the all-black the Necrosword. Officially that is, not regarding the Hela's Necroswords as the all-black symbiote. So yeah, Gorr the God Butcher and all black. Anyway, with that we come to the end of it, so do hit that like button for support and smash that bell icon for regular updates on new videos right here on this channel. Till the next one, take care fam.